Hello, everyone. I believe we are live. Oh, goodness, we already have a super chat in from Jesse Meeks that says, hey, y'all from Kansas, don't forget to like and share. Only way to screw Darth YouTube. Thank you. That is very true. Let's see. Let's refresh this so we can get the chat up in this video. And wow, we already have lots of folks here, though YouTube says there are 3 of you, and I can tell there are more than 3 of you. So that is definitely not the case, but they always seem to be pretty far behind nonetheless. So let's see who we have. We have Michael Jordan in, Iron Horseman, John Morgan, Mark M., Benjamin Sholnick, Robert Graham, Rod Miller, Blue River Cat, Dave Smith, Cap'n Mac 82, Kelly Karshner, Squid Monkey, who says that he is a disgusting fat body. Okay. Vince DeBona, Palindrome meme. Okay. Wait, it's palindrome backwards. It's forwards and backwards. All right. I'm not going to try to pronounce that then. Jesse Meek, of course. BS in California. David Neal. Lone Wolf. TL Ulrich is in. Scottish Pride. Tony. Nice and simple and short. Leo Zito 83. Let's see. Mark M. We got Mark M. Let's see. Tim Allen, who is, nope, not late. Jonathan Stevie. And Stephen Vacanti. Brian Blackwell. Lance Kilkenny. Gary Guyman. It's interesting. It's not showing any of the folks from Facebook, but I know there are people from Facebook here. Robin Patty says it's romper room time. I see Vince and Squid and Wheelchair Warrior is also in. Robert Chappelle, Elements of Rock. Jim Grady. Leroy Hawley. Okay, there's a Facebook person. Lots of people saying, hey, y'all. I gotta get used to saying that. Sean Marolf just got here. Corrupt Actor Matthew Sturm. Derek CB123. Amanda Liberty 08. Mr. Hellspawn, who says, howdy, new neighbor. Guardian 209. Joseph Alejandro Lunar. Chris Britt. Ben Hunsinger. Michael Elmore. Gary Wood. Richard Jeffries. Daniel Treadwell. Mike Sharp. Lots of folks in today. Michael Peel. Lots of folks in. So hello, everyone. And Prince Ginger is from the UK. Very cool. All right, folks. Sean says he couldn't even message in Facebook. Interesting. And Jesse Sowell says the Supreme Court never legally had the power to enforce Roe v. Wade. That's why we have these separations of power. Well, just because people are saying no sound? That might just be you, Dwayne. I'm not sure. Because no one else, I don't see anyone else saying that. One of my monitors just went dark, which is weird, but, and people are asking me where my intro is. It does not seem that Trash Man is in the house. Let's see if he left me a message. I don't believe he did. So we just might not have an intro today. And Patreon logged me out, so I'm not going to mess with that. Oh, you know what? They sent it to my email. Here we go. Eric Sipe. He did. All right, we have the intro in my Patreon messages from Eric Sipe. Trash Man, it won't let me intro. So, live from below the Mason-Dixon line, it's the lady whose family thinks she's joined the Confederacy. True, they do think that. Who happily swapped meth heads for deer on her porch and has actually met her neighbors. And with that, here's Dolly. So thank you, Trash Man, for that. All right, folks. So we have wow, it's been an emotional few hours for the libertarian crowd and really anyone who is into liberty, independents, libertarians, the anarchist crowd. It's been a tough few hours for those folks. It's been a tough few hours over here as well, as I put in my 4th maintenance request in the last week at this house and woke up to some crazy news about Joe Jorgenson, woke up to a roof leak, an exploding sink, and then the Ron Paul story from today, which luckily so far has a happy ending. So Ken Davis says Ron Paul is getting old. Don't even say that. Alas, and might have had a TIA, but clearly Pelosi had one on Sunday, and Nadler pooped his pants a couple days ago. Did Nadler really poop his pants? Because if that is the truth, I did not hear about that, and that is hilarious. Trashman is in the house, and YouTube is just acting weird, and then he sent a little pirate flag, which I appreciate. Dwayne Christensen says still no sound. I don't really know what that is about because I don't see anyone else talking about it. Hopefully the lighting and color is better today too. To all the folks that commented on my last few live streams that I need to eat a sandwich and go tanning. Thank you very much for those astute intellectual arguments. I will take them into consideration. All right, so let's start with the Ron Paul story, since that's the biggest one. And people are saying sound is fine. Okay, so check out your mute, any of that stuff. So so interestingly enough, I got an email from someone today, a viewer of the channel, Mark. He sent me an email today actually warning me that Ron Paul was getting censored because one of his videos was pulled from the channel and had some concern that video was gone and that it could be affecting other YouTubers and like who knew what was going to happen from that. And then right after that, I actually saw the news on Facebook. Unfortunately, Ron Paul had a medical emergency. From the looks of it, it looks like it was probably a stroke or a mini stroke or a TIA. It's a TIA. I forget the actual medical term for it, but it's a mini stroke basically. And I am not going to show the video. It was live, unfortunately. They did remove it from the YouTube channel. I stumbled upon it on Twitter, not quite knowing exactly what it was, and it was very, very upsetting. So I am not going to show it to you guys. It's easy enough to find if that is what you're into. But again, it was very, very upsetting. He was talking about something and then suddenly started slurring his words and became unintelligible. And then it cut to the guest and you just hear, Dr. Paul, and then no response. And then it cut out. It was very, very upsetting. I'm not the kind of person that ever thought that I would get upset or cry over medical issues that happened to a celebrity or public figure. I always actually kind of think it's ridiculous when people do it, but I actually became very upset and cried a little bit, but my girlfriends say that is totally normal and that upset them too. So that's what we're going with. So John Morgan says TAA transient I can never say this word. Ischemic attack, basically. Transient ischemic attack or event. So that happened, and then I saw it first on Facebook and then on Twitter, and then it got picked up by The Sun, and for a little while that was the only story, and no one really knew what was going on. I heard from some insider folks that he was on his way to the hospital and was intelligible and everything at the hospital, so that was good, and that was a good sign. And then he did post like the cutest little picture that I reposted on Twitter, actually, and Facebook. So I will share this with you guys. Message from Ron Paul. I'm doing fine. Thank you for your concern. And he's smiling, so that's good, because on the live, like, his face was even drooping a little bit. So that's why I say it was a stroke. But here he's smiling and he looks good. So very, very relieving. It was upsetting to be faced with Ron Paul's mortality, quite frankly. Fred Hill says, I've had 2 strokes, so I think you're dead on. I've had a stroke and a TIA. The good thing is, I mean, it sucks that it happened live and that people saw it and that I ended up seeing it. But at the same time, because it was live and he was in studio, that meant that there were people there and he was able to get to the hospital right away. And with strokes, like, time is of the essence. The faster you get medical attention, the better, the less likely it is to have permanent damage. So being that he doesn't really seem to have any facial drooping or anything like that, hopefully it doesn't really have any long-term effects, because of course, strokes can do everything from making you have to, like, relearn to walk, relearn to talk. It can cause you to lose control or mobility of your limbs. I mean, they can do all sorts of crazy damage. My grandmother actually had a couple of strokes when she was alive, and she was a painter for her whole life, and it affected her right side. And she was right hand dominant, so she had to relearn how to talk. She was never able to walk again after that, unfortunately, and had to learn how to paint with her left hand, and she still did a damn good job. Q says, if I had a stroke, no one would know for a week or so. That is very sad. And speaking of sad, I was about to retweet this earlier, and I'm going to do it right now, and then I'll show it to you guys. Someone, I don't know who this person is, but they claim to be the founder of Mensa. I'm not a religious man, but please, Lord, send your best angels to Ron Paul to quickly send his nasty ass to hell. Amen. And there's 1.6 thousand likes. That is so distressing and sad and awful. I don't know who this person is, but their Twitter handle is fart. So that's a thing, I guess. Totally awful. I just retweeted them on Twitter with a remark about them being a terrible person. So that is the dealio with Ron Paul. I don't believe we have any other information at the moment. There are some folks, and I think that this is kind of a conspiracy theory. There are some folks that were saying, because he was talking to Dr. Mercola the day before about COVID, and then during this this video, he was talking, I believe he had just said something about the Fed. The Fed will reach the point where the stimulus no longer stimulates, and their monetary schemes will ultimately come to an end. So he was talking about the Fed. I'll zoom in here. This was the tweet that he put out before the show. And so because of this, there are some people speculating that he was poisoned or that it was done on purpose. If you watch the video, it pretty clearly looks like a stroke. So I really think that the idea that he was poisoned for talking about COVID or about the Fed is pretty far-fetched. I'm pretty sure that he just does these live streams from his, own little studio with his own little crew. Dude is 85 years old, and he's not really that much in the public eye anymore. If anyone was going to take him out, it would have been quite some time ago. But, as I posted on Twitter, that if without Ron Paul, there would be no Liberty Doll. And I know that he certainly changed my life and my ideals and my principles politically. And I can say that for most of the people that I know in the Liberty movement. And so many of us, if not all of us, are wishing him positive thoughts and a speedy and healthy recovery. Q says he was shot with a stroke-inducing ray gun. And Rycash Springer says, again, at least he retired, unlike RBG. I don't know if it's true, but I remember reading at one point that actually he didn't even want to run for Senate. I believe it was the first time around. He didn't want to run for Congress at all, but actually the people in his community asked him to run and suggested that he run. And so that's actually how he ended up getting into politics and Congress. And I believe he did not take a salary the entire time that he was in office, which is pretty admirable. And I know that before and after that was an OBGYN and delivered babies, which is pretty cool. Leroy Hawley says it was Ron Paul that brought me. A lot of people are saying that in the chat. So hopefully, like I said, speedy and fast recovery. And John Morgan says that Jared just uploaded an update on the woman arrested for not wearing a mask on the bleachers the other day. I don't have his video pulled up, but I do have that story pulled up. I have quite a few things actually pulled up that I did not mention in the original thing because I kind of just put it together pretty quickly today. But as a quick update about Massachusetts, because I know that you folks like those. As an update in Massachusetts world, Lord Governor Baker has announced that groups of 10 are now allowed to go to restaurants back up in Massachusetts. And not only that, though keep in mind they're still at, I believe, 25% capacity for dining. So some places, if you have a party of 10, that's all you can have. He's now also allowing bar seating at restaurants. Not the bars to be open. The bars still can't open until there is a proven vaccine or treatment. So that's forever and ever and ever away. But people are now allowed to sit at the bar and have bar seating, provided they are ordering food and a full meal. So basically, what it means is that restaurants that have a bar are allowed to use the bar for their overflow seating, but it still counts towards capacity. So that really doesn't mean much. Also, in Massachusetts, this is the second time in about a month that this has happened. Right before we moved, Governor Baker called in the National Guard, and he is calling them in again, an additional 1,000 guardsmen to Massachusetts. Last time he did this, he did not give a reason as to why he was calling in the National Guard, but this time he did. And this time it is because of to assist cities in the event of large protests in the coming days. And that is in regards to, I'm guessing, the election coming up, as well as protests, possibly riots about Breonna Taylor. Kentucky, man. In Louisville, they actually preemptively declared a state of emergency when they were going to be announcing whether or not they were going to charge the officers in the Breonna Taylor case. Now, note that a civil suit with Breonna Taylor's family has already been settled, I believe, for $12 million. And the DA decided to not press charges on the police officers, and there is some more information about that case that actually came out. We were We were originally told that it was a no-knock raid, and now we're being told that it was not a no-knock raid. They were serving a regular warrant, and supposedly the police knocked on the door and announced themselves, and Breonna Taylor's boyfriend shot at the officers through the door. We were also originally told that she was in her bed sleeping. That is not the case. She was in the hallway. They had been watching a movie prior. Supposedly, she had messages on her phone from a drug dealer. That's what they're saying at this point. And the only officer that was charged there was one that was charged not for shooting Breonna Taylor because they decided that was justified. The officer was charged for negligently firing because he also fired into some other apartments and hit some other apartments. So those are the only charges that came out of the Breonna Taylor case. And in light of that, before that was even announced, Louisville announced a preemptive state of emergency, so you could kind of expect what that was going to be. So they announced it. There were protests that did turn into riots. I, at this point, haven't even I haven't even looked at them because, I mean, at this point, it's more of the same. These riots have been going on for how long? 3 months, 4 months? Something like that. Freedom or Death says, I'm sure they are real sad as they accepted millions of dollars. I would also say they agreed not to prosecute the officers to get the money. I would say that's likely. If it settled, then, I mean, it probably settled with an agreement that they would not pursue it further. I mean, that's usually what civil suits are, if I believe. FL Sheepdog says, breaking news, Massachusetts has to close due to loss of Liberty Doll. I will tell you right now, guys, Boston, from everything that I have heard at this point, is a ghost town, a flat out ghost town. All the big buildings, the big office buildings and, medical buildings and labs and all that stuff, the lab techs and those people are still in, but all of these big companies, a lot of them have said that they're not going to have anyone even step into their offices until summer of next year, as in June, July, August, 2021, depending on the company. So there's actually lots of articles coming out right now. Number one, talking about how Massachusetts has the highest unemployment rate in the country right now. Not only do they have the highest unemployment rate, but they also have the lowest rate of new hires and hiring. So there are some places that are starting to recover, and they're seeing companies start to hire people back. That is not happening in Massachusetts. People are fleeing at record highs. I mean, people are just leaving all of these big blue cities left and right, heading out to the suburbs, heading into other states. And, it's not just... It's not big businesses that are closing, and it's not just restaurants. Even there was an article about that featured a dry cleaners that was shutting down, and those sorts of service industries are getting closed because, okay, you don't have all the folks. Number one, everybody's working from home. You don't have people going into the offices, so they're not going to need their suits and shirts dry cleaned. All the people not going into and out of the offices that are not in Boston now are therefore not eating at the restaurants in Boston. I believe the tea, I don't even know if the tea is running at full capacity right now. I know that they had slowed it down at some point, so... Ghost town in Boston, 100%. And people are just fleeing these big cities. And, a big part of it is because of COVID. And another big part of it is because of these riots and the looting and destruction that's going on. I believe at this point I saw that there are 3 areas in the country that are now just being designated as like being ruled by anarchists, basically, which is an oxymoron in itself. And I do want to clarify that when they say anarchists, they mean anarcho-communists, which are very different from anarcho-capitalists. The difference is in the name right there. And Antifa is an anarcho-communist organization. So we have these like anarchy spots, and then people are just fleeing because it's all kinds of awful. I just saw some more super chats can't come in. LCC says, my aunt and uncle moved out of Lowell last summer. They are very happy now in rural Indiana. Yeah, I mean, rural is where it's supposed to be. Let's see. I just saw someone say something in here about Boston and the T, but thank you, Aaron Miller. Dave Smith says, heard the best way to stop the riots is hook up air pressure sprayers to septic tank drain tanks and let them run. That is disgusting. Pickle Jars for Hillary says, in regards to Breonna Taylor, she was on the warrant. Nothing should have been offered. I mean, either way, I'm against no-knock raids 100%. They never seem to end well for anybody, and I don't know, it's unconstitutional, and they get it wrong a lot of times. You know, it's a good way to take away people's rights, and I mean, and it puts police officers in really bad situations too. It's just It's just not great. Shadow Bear says, yeah, but the cops announced themselves for that Whitaker guy too, but you couldn't understand it on the body cam even. That is true. Yeah, that was the fellow, I believe, that he was in his apartment, and he and his girlfriend were like making salsa and playing video games or something like that, and someone called in a domestic complaint because they were yelling because they were like playing video games or something, and you can see the body cam footage. The police like run up and they like knock like once or something and yell police, but it's all muffled, you can't really hear, and like the guy comes to the door and he has a gun on him and they just open fire like out of nowhere practically. That was horrible to watch, and he just like dies there, or is dying there on the sidewalk, and like his girlfriend is basically like, what the F are you doing? And she's trying to go and help him, and they're telling her that she needs to relax and back off while her boyfriend is like bleeding out and dying right in front of the door, and all they're telling her is that she needs to back off and relax. Absolutely awful. Absolutely awful. People are saying in the chat it was not a no-knock raid. I did say that earlier, that they were originally saying it was a no-knock raid. That was the original information that was given, but now it has come out that that is not the case. F308GTB 1977 says, you can't have liberty and a socialized police force at the same time. Pinking 554 says, Colorado Springs police haven't used a no-knock warrant since 2008. That is impressive. That's very impressive. Q says, I can yell police doesn't make me a cop. That is also true. And a lot of times, well, not a lot, but sometimes you see these videos and the guys are in like plain clothes. Anyone can impersonate a police officer. So, I mean, just because they're saying police doesn't necessarily mean anything either. And Palindrome, I'm just going to say it twice, says, you can't expect someone to be compliant when you bust down their door in the dead of night. It's stupidity. People who disagree need to have a friend bust in their door and shout lawful orders at 3 a.m. Pickle Jars for Hillary says sarcastically that police should have conducted the arrest in some public place like a mall. What could go wrong? I mean, either way. I mean, there was that little kid, Bo, the 3-year-old that was in the no-knock raid that was on the wrong house, and they threw a flashbang into his crib. There was a 6-year-old girl who also in a no-knock raid in a wrong house was killed. I mean, there's lots of children that have gotten caught in the crossfire in these, and whenever a little kid dies in one of these, it seems every time that it was the wrong house. So, I mean, someone is not doing their research correctly, for sure. Either way, riots came out of it. I believe there were 2 officers that were shot. Crazy things happening. Absolutely crazy things happening. Very, very nuts. Also, because someone mentioned it in the chat, we had a woman in Ohio who was arrested and tased after she was asked to wear a mask at an outdoor football game, while all the people on the field were not masked, obviously. And Justin Watkins says, seeing that woman get tased for not wearing a mask makes me wonder, are police trying to turn normal people against them? That is not the first time that I have heard that question, actually. Some people think that it's part of some grand scheme, some grand plan to sow social unrest. I mean, it's entirely possible. I don't think that social planners are necessarily a conspiracy theory, though. I mean, that seems like a little bit too complicated. Warhorse says that police haven't thought of themselves as one of the rest of us since the 1960s. Certainly, I'll say, there's a lot of folks that talk about demilitarizing the police, and I agree with that. And, some people are like, oh, well, we need these weapons because of all the weapons on the street, because of gang members and da-da-da-da. I mean, really, I think what it comes down to is you have to consider, too. I know a lot of you folks are from smaller areas, like rural areas. There's a huge difference between rural area policing and like small cities versus like the mega cities like Boston, New York, places like that. Totally different. For example, especially in blue states, like every single town has its own police force and state police presence within the town. So you have a building that's for the state police, and then you have a building that's for the town police. College campuses also have their own police force. In Massachusetts, for example, and they all go to the police academy. It's not, your little campus police aren't mall cops. They are actual police officers that go through the state police academy. You can't go anywhere for more than a mile in Massachusetts without seeing a police officer, for example. And they become so prevalent, and the cities have gotten so big that there's just like no face to it anymore. You don't know who your local police officer is 9 times out of 10 in these areas. So it's very different from places that work under like sheriff's departments, where sheriffs are elected, or where there's a couple of cops for, an entire town or something. Very, very different. And, in these big areas, that's where you see people or police departments with like tanks and all of this crazy stuff that is very, very different from like the 50s and 60s. Very, very different. And I mean, sometimes they can be, I've had some bad experiences myself, and I don't know. I've never like purposely ever broken any law or anything like that. And I have been pulled over and accused of doing drugs because my eyes were dry from my contacts. Like, I've had some pretty crazy experiences. I remember I was in my 20s and I was driving home from a boyfriend's house, and a police officer pulled me over and accused me of being a prostitute. Like, crazy stuff. Anyways, so we have this story. Admittedly, I don't know all the details of this, so we're going to read it together, and then we'll get into some of the other stuff like Joe Jorgensen. So, this says that Alicia Kitts traveled to see her son play football in Logan, Ohio. Footage shows her seated with her family at the proper social distance from other families without a mask on. A police officer approached her because she wasn't wearing a mask as required by the school district. After she struggled and resisted arrest, the officer in the video tased her into submission in front of her children and arrested her. Now, I will say I don't know what the ordinances are in Ohio or what the school district required, but I know in Massachusetts, at least, people with medical conditions that prevent them from wearing a mask are exempt, and you're not allowed to ask them for proof of whatever medical condition or disability. So, and that would go against the ADA if they did this. So, according to the Ohio Star, one witness said that a child sitting on the middle bleachers got shocked when the charge traveled through the metal. Oh, wow. That is pretty crazy. Do they have the video in here? They do. All right, so let me pop up my volume for you guys, and we'll watch this.
This is over a mask. It's not. I don't know. I don't think you can arrest her for not wearing a mask. This is not a warning.
Jeez.
Call the cops, Raven. Yeah.
Will you talk to them?
I don't know if he's a real officer.
Is there police on the side? In on the side?
I don't hear anything. But he may be, Bridget, because there's a popcorn over here. There's popcorn over there. Tase somebody over a mask. Tasing this lady over not wearing a damn mask. Arresting her for a mask, not wearing a mask when he even got one on.
Right.
Hey, where's your mask?
Now we're attacking together now, right, guys? We've done this how many times together? How many times?
That's bullshit. Oh, here comes another.
Oh my God.
Right there. That's bullshit, isn't it?
That's some bullshit.
Jeez.
Yeah, you can't arrest somebody for not wearing a mask.
That is nuts. That is absolutely nuts. You know, they're going to talk about her like charging her with resisting arrest for not wearing a mask. I mean, she shouldn't be arrested for not wearing a mask anyways. I mean, she was sitting with her family, appropriately socially distanced from other families. She was the only one within her family not wearing a mask, which would lead me to believe there is probably some reason that she's not wearing a mask. She's outside. The people on the field didn't have masks. Like, I don't see why it even had to come to that. So according to the witness who shot the video, the woman had not been warned for not wearing a mask prior to the officer approaching her. Kennedy also said that Kitts has asthma. There we go. And that's why she was not wearing a mask. There is no reason to tase someone and arrest them for not wearing a mask, she said. Also pointed out that the female officer who is shown running toward the Logan officer, and Kitts at the end of the video was not wearing a mask, pulling one out of her pocket as she was in pursuit. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Alicia's mom said that when the officer tased her, the current went through the bleachers and zapped the kids sitting there too. That is just awful. And there were only about 25 to 30 fans from our town on our side, according to that. And then there is... So according to this, Ohio has a mask mandate, but only when you are indoors and cannot socially distance. The school has its own rules on masking, but it is unclear whether they could have someone arrested for not following policy. I mean, I feel like a normal little school district or school rule, I feel like you can't arrest someone over that. I've never heard of that before. Surely it would have been less traumatizing for the children who witnessed this or were hurt by it if they had just escorted her out instead of having her arrested. And that is true. Someone in the chat is saying no shirt, no shoes, no mask, no service. So even if you want to argue that about being in stores or something, I mean, it says right here that Ohio's mask mandate is for when you are indoors or can't socially distance. She was outside with her family. She has a medical condition. She was the only one not wearing a mask, and they were distanced from the other families. So I don't really see how that can even be an argument there. Marauder says you have a right to not wear a mask. I have a right to refuse you access. That is absolutely true. That is absolutely true. But again, she was outside, and there is a difference between saying to someone, hey, you have to leave because you're not wearing a mask, and arresting someone and tasing them outdoors when the other officers themselves aren't even wearing masks. I mean, I think we could say that that is a little bit hypocritical. Just saying. And again, she has a medical condition. I don't know about the mandate in Ohio, but in Massachusetts, and actually it goes against the Americans with Disabilities Act, that you cannot discriminate against someone for a medical condition. If she has asthma and can't wear a mask, there is an argument there for discrimination because of a medical condition. Now, I mean, I'm not saying whether or not the ADA is a legitimate thing as far as places being able to refuse service, because I do believe that businesses should be able to refuse service. But if we're going by the law, the legal doctrines as they are written and as they existed, then actually arresting her for having asthma essentially is illegal. Just saying. So according to the update, the Logan Police Department put out a statement, and my goodness, this is a long one. So let's see. Press release. This was released just 14 hours ago. Well, no. Yes, 14 hours ago. So this is a pretty new update from the Logan Police Department in Ohio. On September 23rd at approximately 5:30 p.m., School Resource Officer Chris Smith was working a special duty detail at the Logan High School Stadium for the 7th and 8th grade football games. The special duty assignment was requested by the school district to help ensure the safety of the fans and athletes during their inside and outside sporting events. One of the duties of the assignment is to ensure fans complying with CDC, Ohio Health Department, Ohio Athletic Association, and Logan Hawkins School District policy rules and guidelines. One of these policy guidelines mandated by the Logan Hawkins School District is that all spectators must wear a mask while on school property. Officer Smith was walking in the stadium and observed a female sitting in the stands without a mask. He approached the female and advised her she needed to put on her mask as required by the school policy. Witnesses say that that is not true and that he did not speak to her beforehand. The female advised that she had asthma and was not going to put it on. Officer Smith advised the female several times that she needed to put her mask on, and if she did not, she would be asked to leave and would have to wait outside the stadium. The female continually refused his request, and Officer Smith advised her that if she refused to leave, she would be cited for trespassing and escorted off the property. Well, even being escorted off the property is very different from being arrested. And I mean, if it's very possible that there were things that happened before the start of that video, but the interactions that they had in that video were not long enough to suggest that this conversation took place. And I don't know if you guys could hear it. I had the sound up, but it did not sound like that exchange took place on the video, for sure. And honestly, if you'll note, the officer wasn't even wearing his mask over his nose. So, just saying. After several attempts to get her to leave, Officer Smith advised her she was under arrest for criminal trespassing and asked her to place her hands behind her back multiple times, and she refused. Officer Smith attempted to place her hand behind her back. The female began resisting by pulling away from the officer, and another female began interfering with the arrest. Officer Smith advised her to comply or he would deploy his taser if she did not quit resisting. She continued to resist, and Officer Smith placed his taser on her shoulder area and drive-stunned her once. He was able to successfully handcuff the female at this time. An additional officer arrived and assisted in walking the female out of the stadium. She continued to try to pull away from the officers while being escorted out of the stadium and had to be placed into the cruiser. I mean, if he really was going to try that hard to get her out of the stadium before arresting her, why didn't he just call for backup then and have a couple officers show up and be like, hey, yeah, no, you have to leave? I mean, that probably would have done it. DTL in the chat says, did the cheerleaders, players, and both cops have their masks on or appropriately? No. Twerk1 says that's a violation of her constitutional rights. No state law supersedes the Constitution. I agree there. The female initially refused to identify herself. Hocking County Emergency Medical Services was requested and responded to the scene. The female refused treatment. Let's see. The female was later identified as, we said, Alicia D. Kitts. She was charged with criminal trespassing and released at the scene. Additional charges are pending on Mrs. Kitts and another female subject involved in the incident. So they're probably going to try to charge the other person with, interfering or obstructing justice or some crap like that. It is important to note the female was not arrested for failing to wear a mask. She was asked to leave the premises for continually violating a school policy of not wearing a mask when she had asthma, which many doctors are telling people not to wear masks when they have asthma. But again, once she refused to leave the premises, she was advised she was under arrest for criminal trespassing. She resisted the arrest, which led to the use of force. This is an unfortunate incident for everyone involved. The incident remains under investigation. I will say, Thin Blue Line, they are probably going to always defend their own. We will, a lot of people are talking about Jared and his video in here, so let's actually watch some of his video. How about that? For those of you that don't know, Jared is a police officer. He is a staunch Second Amendment supporter and all-around good guy. So let's watch Jared and Guns and Gadgets and his take on it.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Those of you who are still here, that is. Just looking through some of the comments and the reaction for the video I did about the Ohio fiasco at a high school football game. I want to address one thing on it, and then we'll move on to something else here. There are a few people that, and it's going to, on any side, any argument, there are people who just take the other side no matter what, and they're staunch supporters of it, and that's fine. I mean, this is America. We can actually agree and still be on the same team. For the people who are saying she wasn't arrested for the mask, she was arrested for trespassing, please, if you were in this scenario, your mom was there and they arrested her for trespassing, you'd be pissed off. So stop it. And excuse me, as somebody who's been on the job a long time, I'll tell you that a simple trespass charge is a bullshit charge. Like that's. So there's a lot of people who say, what could you have done differently? And I think that's what we should focus on, is what could he have done differently, him being that police officer there who decided he was going to lock up a female for initially not wearing a mask. It was the start of the encounter. So he was there, hired as security for the game by the school district, and the school district has a mandatory wear policy, as does the state of Ohio. But there's a thing called research, and usually, the truth shall set you free type deal. So I'm going to read you the statewide mask order that was put into effect by Governor DeWine on July 23rd at 6 o'clock p.m. The state.
And this is why I like Jared in his videos so much. He always knows what's up. And he seems to know it before everyone else. Just saying. Check his channel out. Guns and Gadgets.
The statewide mandate will go into effect for citizens living in all 88 Ohio counties. And I'm pretty sure that school falls in one of the 88 counties. Governor DeWine said this, our preliminary data, blah, 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 blah. I don't care about his BS of why we're going to make you wear a mask or try to. All individuals in Ohio must wear facial coverings in public at all times when, A, at an indoor location that is not a residence. This clearly wasn't that. It was outdoors. Or the next one is outdoors, which this was, but unable to maintain 6-foot social distance from people who are not household members. Now, I don't know about you, if you watch the video, I'm assuming the people sitting next to her with the children and stuff are family members, household members. That's what I'm going to assume for the sake of the argument. But they were more than 6 feet away from everybody else in those stands because there weren't that many people there. They were far from the field. So to push this scenario or scene or incident to the point where you have to put your hands on somebody because of your inability to use what we used to call back in the day as verbal judo. A lot of guys and gals in the military and police field know that term. But be able to talk to people, to have empathy, to talk to another human being instead of, I am a commander and you shall listen. Where's your mask? That is just the tip of the iceberg. Be able to deal with people, man. Seriously, like, they're obviously to watch their kids in the game. Whether it doesn't matter, some people said they were from the other team. Who cares? They were there to support some kids. I don't know about your state, but every other state's suffering with homeschooling, and kids' lives are upside down with all the BS, phony, can't go anywhere stuff. You didn't have to push the scenario the way it was. There, from what I saw, there was no attempt at de-escalating, only an immediate escalation. There was no need to tase her, period. That dude was much larger than her. He had a size advantage. He had an advantage because he was higher than she was.
That guy was like twice her size, at least.
Just stop with all that. He was wrong, 100% wrong. I don't know. It is what it is. I'm just sick and tired of, not just in my field, but people who are supposed to have this country's back.
And I won't show the rest of the video just because I don't, this isn't, the rest of you can go to his channel and check it out. I'm told that he had another video about it as well that was really good, where he was very upset about, from a few hours ago. And that one's almost 12 minutes long, so you guys can go check it out. But, he's absolutely right. I mean, it did not appear from that video that there was any sort of de-escalation done whatsoever. And it's just all around not a great situation whatsoever. Just awful, awful. The nice thing about it is there are a lot of people that seem to be upset and outraged by it. And I think that that's a really good sign. Because, it's at least different from all the folks we had that were like tattling on their neighbors and calling the tip lines and the hotlines and blah, blah, blah. And all the crazy, GPS text alerts that they had in New York. So it's good at least that there are people that are getting upset about this and getting, up in arms about it. And a lot of people in the chat are saying lawsuit, lawsuit, lawsuit. I mean, yeah, probably. Doesn't mean anything will come out of it, but it certainly seems like she would have a chance. All right. So the other thing that I want to get to that I had listed in the title is Joe Jorgenson, with all the hullabaloo, put out her picks for if she were to do a Supreme Court justice. And by the way, as a nice aside, so y'all know, a special guest on the live stream next week, provided nothing gets changed around, we will actually have Spike Cohen, who was previously with the Vermin Supreme campaign and is now on the vice president on the Libertarian ticket for election 2020. So we will have Spike Cohen on, and also it won't be live, but I have scored an interview with Jo Jorgensen herself. I'm only going to get about 15 to 20 minutes of her time, but that's still really exciting. But we will have Spike for a full hour to possibly an hour and a half for the usual Friday live stream. So folks, get your questions ready so that we'll be able to ask him some questions. Now we're going to go see the train wreck that was the Supreme Court picks. So a statement was put about this after the fact, and actually a name was removed from the list, but this article was put out. Actually, you know what? We'll find the Wayback Machine version. How about that? We'll do that first, because that makes it better, because then you'll be able to see it in all of its glory. Basically, what happened is they released this list, and it's got some good ones on it. It does. For example, Judge Napolitano was on the list, and actually that was someone who I talked about on the live stream previously. Oh, the URL was not archived. Oh, that's interesting. So we cannot see the original version. Well, that's pretty convenient. All right, well, so this is Joe's list for Supreme Court picks. There are some good ones on there. Andrew Napolitano, and like I said, we had mentioned on the, I had mentioned on the live stream previously, Christina, hello to your 9-year-old. But we had mentioned Andrew Napolitano on the stream previously, who that's someone that I think would be a decent pick. And I think some folks in the chat got it as well, or had mentioned it as well. I don't know many of these names on here, quite frankly. We also had on here, though, Jacob Hornberger. He was on this stream, if you guys remember. He was also running for the LP nomination for president, and I really like him. He's with the Foundation for Economic Education, Future of Freedom Foundation. And then this list had to be updated because it originally held Alan Dershowitz. Now, Alan Dershowitz is a problem for a few reasons. Number one, he was the lawyer for both Weinstein and Epstein. Now, you can't really discount someone because as part of their job, they represented some bad people. But there have been some allegations against Alan Dershowitz as well, and it's definitely, at the very least, it is not reading the room appropriately. Not reading the room appropriately at all. So there have been some accusations against him. He has also spoken out against the Second Amendment and against some other really important stuff. Let's see if actually, he was an advisor to O.J. Simpson. He was a consultant for Julian Assange, so that is something. We'll give him that. But so he is technically a member of the Democratic Party, but he said he was going to leave if a certain person was elected chair. He endorsed Hillary Clinton in 2008, and then later endorsed Obama. He opposed the impeachment of Bill Clinton and said that he voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. He campaigned against Donald Trump. He campaigned against the travel ban, against Trump attacking DACA. And he has criticized the ACLU. He has stood out against some crazy stuff. Strong supporter of gun control. He has criticized the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution, saying that it has no place in modern society. He has also come out in support of torture and the death penalty. So, I mean, not your typical, not your typical libertarian pick, but he was put on the list. And then libertarians everywhere were completely up in arms about this. They were very upset. There was a lot of people now who are disavowing the libertarian ticket completely because of this. And a lot of people saying that there's no way that they can support someone who's done this, no way that they can support someone who's made these picks. And then, so a statement was put out where basically she blames her team and says that basically that it was randos on her campaign that picked this list and that she kind of had nothing to do with it, which seems like a little bit of a cop-out. And really, like, did no one on your team do any research? Like, I mean, a quick Google pulls up some not great things about Dershowitz. So Jo said in her release about this yesterday, last night, earlier today, my campaign released a long list of potential Supreme Court nominees. We included people who'd shown strength in some area of upholding individual rights and limits of federal government authority. The response among libertarians and the broader public to most names on the list has been generally supportive. However, many rightly oppose, including Alan Dershowitz. While he has defended civil liberties and free speech, has opposed the death penalty, okay, so I was wrong about the death penalty, and has shown a willingness to put partisanship aside, his statements that torture may sometimes be acceptable and his opposition to gun rights disqualifies him from any further consideration. In addition, there are unresolved questions about his association with Jeffrey Epstein. As a result, I have permanently removed Dershowitz from my list of potential nominees. Just because of the allegations and connections to Epstein and his island, he never should have been on the list in the first place. Yeah, people in the chat are saying they're very disappointed with this ticket, and as am I. This is, people are saying that some people are saying this is, this election's Aleppo moment. A lot of people are saying it's a lot worse than that. It's not great. It's not a good look. There were a lot of people that I saw on social media that were very, very upset about this and are not going to let it go. Some people were like, oh, at least she can come out and admit her mistakes, and that's better than a lot of the other people. But most people are saying, for example, this guy says, "You are awful. I knew it beforehand, but thanks for making it apparent to everyone else that no matter whom they vote for, they are giving their consent to the blank elite," a word we're not allowed to say on YouTube, wood chipper 2020. Someone else is saying, should have caught that before you put his name out there. Probably. It's not like his stance on 2A was a secret. It doesn't sound like. Man, and it's. Oh, God. Oh, God. He wrote an article. Someone posted an article that he wrote that I'm probably going to get in trouble for showing this, but that is the title of it. Wow. Written, folks, ladies and gentlemen, by Alan Dershowitz. Yep. And that's someone that was put on her list of SCOTUS picks. That is really, really disappointing. Really disappointing. I don't believe that Trump has made his... correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe that Trump has... it says that... Oh, here we go, actually. So she has not been officially nominated yet, but according to Reuters, sources say that Trump is going to go with Amy Coney Barrett as his choice. We've talked about her on the last couple of streams that I did last week. I did, one Saturday and one Tuesday or Wednesday. Dave Smith says that he did pick Barrett. Okay. President Donald Trump plans on Saturday to name Conservative Federal Appeals Court Amy Coney Barrett to fill the vacancy on the U.S. Supreme Court. So I think that pretty soon we will see the attacks coming out about her and about her being a religious zealot and all of those fun things that we talked about previously on the program. Ranting Monkey says, wait, I just woke up. Joe put Dersh on her SCOTUS picks list. Why, yes, she did. And it's interesting you can't find it on the Wayback Machine. But I know a lot of folks were complaining about it. And if you do go and look at the list at the bottom, it says that it was edited later on to take him off of the list. He was on the list. Liberty Geek says that Dershowitz believes that the federal government has the constitutional ability to force vaccinations. That is terrifying. I mean, I guess the good thing is he is off the list, and her list will probably not get used. But already there's a whole bunch of flurry out there about Amy Coney Barrett. She's already in the news a little bit. There are some hit pieces out there. There are some pieces that are praising her, but we are in for a wild ride coming up. That is for sure. As far as I know, McConnell is still saying that there is going to be a vote, and we are going to see if the Democrat threats come true. So let's go out and check some of those super chats, any ones that I missed, because it's 8:15. Oh, Rose Blight, I missed earlier, saying evening. Hello, evening, Rose. Mr. Rover Pilot says hello, prayers for Ron Paul. Let's see. FL Sheepdog says poopy penguin. I'm guessing that is in response to Nadler. Fred Hill says looking to buy a house. Eventually, yes. Right now we're renting for a bit. Leroy Holy says, yep, he has audio. So it was just somebody else that didn't have audio. Jesse Meek says, with scathing and intellectual criticism like tanning and sandwiches, we conservatives have little to worry about. And John Thomas is recommending I check out It's a Southern Thing on Facebook to help me get acclimated. Thank you. I'll check it out. Ken Davis says, have you seen the Dan Crenshaw ad? Fabulous. I have not. So let's find that together, shall we, in our last few minutes. So the new Dan Crenshaw ad. Oh, according to Dallas Morning News, it's an Avengers-style ad. Oh, and it's been posted to Twitter. Twitter has the best campaign ads. Actually, pause. I got a Joe Biden ad on Facebook last night, and I actually reported it, and they asked me why I was hiding it. And I put that it was irrelevant, but the next option was knows too much, as if Joe Biden could know too much. And then they apologized for ever showing me a Joe Biden ad. Oh, good stuff. All right, so here is Dan Crenshaw's new ad. Let's check it out. Oh, wow, that's weird. Sorry.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it, will be to save Texas. To do so, you must recruit an exceptional team of congressional candidates. They must be courageous, patriotic, and absolutely fearless. Time is of the essence. The nation's future is dependent upon your success.
You still know how to fly one of these things? Dan Crenshaw. I'm putting a team together, Wesley. You in?
Really?
You know I wouldn't miss this for the world, right? Wait. I think August is going to want to come too.
You guys looking for a real pilot? Let me get cleaned up.
You're an F-22 pilot. What were you doing working under a helicopter?
I have no idea what I was doing, but typical Air Force fixing the Army's problem.
This guy, damn, bro, you could have just texted me, man. Why you gotta jump out of an airplane instead of the waiting
Because it's
here?
cooler to jump. Never mind.
And I want to thank these officers for a job well done.
Hey Beth, when you're finished over there, Texas could use your help.
Wow. Well, I mean, that's all well and good. I mean, it's produced really well. I mean, unfortunately, didn't he come out in favor of red flag laws, which is more than a little bit of a problem? I remember I really liked him at first, and then that red flag law kind of killed it for me. So thank you, Ken Davis, for bringing that ad to our attention so that we could enjoy it all together. It is kind of funny when they're like, "Oh, why the hell did you jump out of a helicopter?" It is produced really well, and I will say that I enjoy. Some people will say that it's a horrible mark of our times, but I kind of enjoy the fact that we can have really ridiculously political ads like that posted to Twitter. I am a big fan, for example, of I think it's Trump's War Room on Twitter and all the ridiculous memes that they come up with. I mean, it is a sign of our times. For sure. Let's see, what other super chats do we have in here? Thank you, Aaron Miller. Freedom or Death says, folks, if you still believe COVID is real, there is no hope for you. Kyle PTX1 says the Tatum Report. I just learned about Tatum Report like today. I have to go and subscribe over there. The Tatum Report recorded calls BF stashed money at Brianna's house and then has a link. Let's see. And then Rose Blight, also in reference to the Guns and Gadgets video and the situation down in Ohio, says Guns and Gadgets just did a deal on this. It should have been de-escalated by officer. State mask mandate for outdoors, no mask needed for socially distanced people. Even Jared said that what happened was 100% wrong. Trashman, ooh, you're gonna get some heat for this. The problem started when protect and serve became comply or die, and therein is the issue. David Buckwalter says Ohio requires no mask if outdoors and greater than 6 feet from non-family. Justin Watkins says, I don't think there's a grand police conspiracy. I think police have too much power, and as a Trump America First loving guy, I'm starting to agree with defund the police. I mean, they're talking about how a lot of these places that are defunding the police are seeing a really high escalation in crime, but at the same time, we always see higher crime in liberal areas, and it's liberal areas that are defunding the police, and it's also those same areas that are rioting. So I would imagine in those areas now you kind of have a purge type scenario where you have a bunch of people being like, oh, so there's no police anymore and we can do what we want, and then they're, out doing crazy things. I don't remember if it was Seattle or Portland, but one of the places they actually just hired a convicted pimp at $120,000 a year to come up with other solutions for policing, which is pretty nuts. Robert Chappelle says it puts on the mask or it gets the taser. Robin Patty asks, is he a cop or a security guard? Huge difference in training. It said, his shirt said police. They said he was a school resource officer, which I believe are usually regular police officers. So, Trashman says, did you get my suggestion for Donald Rainwater? I did. And I have to start scheduling folks now that I have the setup all figured out. And bonus, I'm in the process of getting a new webcam, and someone's going to show me how to use OBS. So we might have some cool graphics on here eventually. Jonathan Stevie says, between the backing of BLM and the Supreme Court picks, JoJo hasn't done her campaign any favors, to be honest. That is unfortunately true. It's, yeah. It's not been great. Let's see. Oh, that's weird. Some of these did not pop up before, and now they're popping up. Uncle Bob's Bees says she was arrested for trespassing for not leaving when asked. Still, they could have handled that situation a little bit different. Robert Chappelle says, when did school policy turn into state legislation? That is a good question. Andy Robichaud says, money's for studio upgrades, and did you and Mr. LD get your SC licenses so you can go to the range yet? No, not yet. We still are waiting for another utility bill with our address on it so that we can use that. And I have to find my passport, quite frankly, because I am a bad little walnut and I don't actually know where that is. I know, very irresponsible. Rod Miller says, do you think that any Democrat will take a meeting with the new SCOTUS nominee so they can properly vet her? Well, probably not. Probably not. You don't see any of these folks getting invited to any Democrat, liberal, leftist, anything. I don't think that would suddenly change. Russ says, hello, Liberty Doll, first time super chatter. Hello and welcome. Longtime Twitter follower, keep up the good work. I like your style. JoJo is not my father's libertarian candidate. An acronym, IYKWIM. I have no idea what that is supposed to stand for. Corrupt Actor says, are you planning to establish another practice? Oh, that is, well, since you guys asked, we'll take a couple minutes to talk about that. So I am doing some life coaching, and I'm going to be advertising that both on Psychology Today and through Liberty Doll once I get some sort of website set up for that. It's going to be, there are some hurdles there. So the insurance companies that I use, that I'm supposed to be able to continue to see some Massachusetts folk under COVID guidelines, and because I'm keeping my Massachusetts license, the insurance companies keep rejecting it anyways. So I had to send a strongly worded letter today. And then for my South Carolina license, I have to get the state of Massachusetts to send a bunch of stuff to South Carolina. I put in a request for my records, my license records that they have. When did I put that request in? July, and I haven't heard anything back yet. So I have very, very little confidence that they're actually going to send out the paperwork that I need them to send out when I ask for it. And you're supposed to somehow time it so that I send what I need to send and they send what they need to send so that it gets there at the same time. I don't have much confidence in that whatsoever. So I really don't know what's happening with that, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to set up another practice for quite some time. So I don't really know what the dealio is with that, unfortunately. But the nice thing, at least, is then that means that I have more time to focus on the channel and stuff for you guys. So, you know, we'll be seeing more of each other at the very least. Mark M says Massachusetts no likey citizens that flee. That is true, though. At least we're not on Hawaii's level yet. I don't know if you folks heard. Hawaii just passed a law that basically, if you are a gun owner and you move out of Hawaii, you have 5 days, only like 5 days, basically to, you know, alert them that the guns are out of the state, or else you get fined $100 a day that you're in violation. They only give you a 5-day grace period. That's it. That is absolutely insane. Yeah, FL Sheepdog is saying that Hawaii wants to fine gun owners that move out. So they don't want gun owners in their state, but they're also going to punish you if you leave. Absolutely ridiculous. Palindrome says ICD-10 coders literally add nothing to the world. I'm sorry. I don't know if that's a dig at the ICD-10 or if that's saying that therapists are useless. Not really sure what that means. But so I don't know if that's supposed to be an insult for me or not. Beans Bullets Bandages says, can you just take the licensing exam? Well, no, I cannot, because at the very least I have to. So, I mean, I could take the exam, but then I would have to practice for 2 years as an intern again and prove all of my experience and all of my supervision. So I would have to work as an intern again for 2 years and hire a supervisor again and do all of those hours. The whole point of the Massachusetts paperwork is to prove that I already have a license and prove that I've done all of my hours. And for the state of Massachusetts to endorse me in that way, basically. So, yeah, if I don't do it this way, if I were to continue to work in mental health, I would have to work at it as an intern for at least another 2 years. And that would be pretty painful after owning my own business, quite frankly. Trashman says Hawaii told California to hold its beer. Yeah, basically, that's what happened. Cigar Poet says Hawaii has almost no gun permits issued in over 15 years. Yep, I have heard about that as well. fellow sheepdog, I'm not going to read that on the air, lest it be misconstrued. We're going to get the last... we did get all the super chats. Very good, good. So, Small Water Guy says the VA could use a person like you. So, fun fact, I don't know how it is here, but in Massachusetts, the VA actually won't hire counselors. They only hire social workers, which is ironic because social workers don't get as much mental health training and don't have to spend as many hours being supervised and practicing in the field before getting licensed. It's sort of like a natural nemesis relationship between counselors and social workers. So Andy Robichaud says you could transition to an HR consultant. HR is basically a mental health professional for employees. I mean, yeah, that is a possibility. So there's still some things that I'm figuring out, but we'll get to that. And Blue River Cat says, doll, hold fast, the South will work for you. I know it will, and already, even despite the fact that, you know, my sink exploded today several times, it was literally a fountain of water that got all over the cabinets and the wall and the floors. Despite that, despite the roof leak, despite like the 2 other maintenance requests I've had to put in, despite this issue with the license and all of that, South Carolina is still a million times better than Massachusetts so far. So I am glad to say that. And on that note, I believe, Vince DeBona real quick says, have you heard about the Trump ballots being found in the trash? Tim Pool has a video on it. Yes, actually, I listened to that video earlier while I was doing the dishes right before my sink exploded. So it was great. Yes, Q, it was basically a bidet in the sink, and it was disgusting. And now nothing will drain in it. Robin says mental health people are crazy. That is a fact. All right, folks, on that note, thank you everyone for tuning in. I totally forgot to mention any partners. So there are some partners for this channel that I was going to mention in this video, and I forgot. So check them out down in the description. So bad. I am really disorganized, but you folks know that. So thanks for tuning in. Check out the support options and the partners down in the description. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, next week we will have Spike Cohen, which is very, very exciting. So think about what kind of questions you guys want to ask him. We will have him for a full hour, maybe even an hour and a half if we're lucky. And hopefully nothing changes between now and then. And then a couple weeks after that, I will have a pre-recorded interview with Jo Jorgenson herself for you guys. And we're going to work on trying to get some more guests on the channel as well. So as always, thanks everyone for tuning in. Hit the like button, subscribe if you're new here and you like this. I promise we'll have some regular videos up soon. And as always, thank you for helping me to spread the message of liberty. Good night, everyone.